Sky Beveridge. I work as NVT's Forest Program Manager, and the intention behind this program is experimenting with management practices to hopefully better manage our forests in this region. So for this study, I was working with our Urban Conservancy Manager, Giorgio Lombardi, in creating or evolving strategies that would gain our community support to remove these invasive plants occurring within nature's valley. Yeah, so I don't think invasive plants need an introduction. Can I just get a show of hands if you guys have invasive alien species around where you work or in your local residential area? And if there are any management plans around these? Okay, good. So yeah, Nature's Valley, where this study was carried out, is on the Western Cape eastern border, and as you can see, we are mostly surrounded by the Garden Route National Park. So our study that we carried out took place in 3 different stages. Firstly, we carried out roadside surveys where we had a driver and 3 observers, and we drove throughout the residential area all along the roads, and we stopped in front of all the properties, and we noted the presence or absence of invasive plants on that property, and if there were invasive plants, we identified them. And then we carried out a community survey that we had made on Google and just sent out on our community WhatsApp group, and we chose to specifically focus on swordfern. This invasive plant is a Category 1 invasive species, which requires landowners to remove this plant from their property. This plant typically grows in woodland areas and is native to northern Australia. It's a hardy fern that is a popular garden plant and has escaped cultivation. It invades swamp forests, coastal vegetation, and forest margins. It's a threat to indigenous species as it spreads aggressively and is able to form dense stands quickly and displacing indigenous vegetation. So the third part of our study, we carried out efficacy trials for this plant. We had 4 areas within our residential area, mostly along road verges, and then 1 we did in our botanical garden, the Phil Martin Park. And in each area, there were 2 different trials that we tried. In the trial area 1, we used our herbicide application. We used the Forester herbicide, and my colleague Giorgio will stress the concentrations of herbicide that you mix with the dye, just so that it is actually effective, so that you're not wasting your money or your time. The trial 2 area was our control, and then the trial 3 area was where we mechanically removed it, so with your hands. And just so you know, that swordfern, the picture on the right-hand side, it's bulbous roots. You have to get those out, otherwise it's just going to keep coming back. Another interesting fact is that these bulbs are actually edible, so if you want a snack while you're doing your hard work, go ahead. So the results from our first part of the study show that there are 16 invasive species occurring throughout our residential area, and most of these are actually falling within the 1B category, so these need to be taken out. On the right-hand side, you can see where these occur and what properties they occur, and it's important to map this out because we can see where we need to focus our efforts and ensure that they do not go into the surrounding Garden Route National Park. And from our study, we saw that 30% of properties have these invasive species on them. It's not too high, but it gives us something to work with, and we obviously don't want it to be a runaway problem. So the results from our second part of the study, a big limitation we had in this part was poor participation on landowners. So as you saw before, the residential area has about 400 properties, but you can see we only got 28 responses. but nonetheless, from the responses we did get, they were quite positive. So 82.1% of people knew that sword fern was an invasive plant, which was pretty good. They said that they would prefer to use the manual removal technique rather than using herbicide. But then we also saw that there was a small subset of people that said they wouldn't mind using a combination of mechanical removal as well as herbicide. We then asked them if they have any reservations on applying herbicide, and as you can see, most of them said yes. And then we asked them why, what are their concerns? And from this we can see that a lot of people have reservations because they don't know enough about the treatments, they can harm wildlife and the environment, but that they also prefer to use natural control methods. And then we had asked them if there was a workshop, if we offered them a workshop, if they would attend. And there was quite a good response to this. And then finally, we asked them if they would be willing to accept advice on controlling the various invasive species on their property. And as you can see, it's quite a good response. And from the last results from the last part of our study, we can see that on the right-hand side over here was our T1 area, where the herbicide was applied, and there's been a complete dieback of the sword fern there. And then the trial 2 area is this middle stand here, and you can see it's still growing quite strongly. And then the trial 3, where we hand pulled, it's completely removed, gone as well. So this part of the study is still occurring. We're going to do long-term monitoring to go back and see that these places, if they are colonized again by the sword fern or if indigenous plants are actually popping up. So that will be really interesting to see. From this study, we see that the effective eradication of invasive plants within our residential area is based on changing property owners' perceptions of using herbicides. And this can be done by proving the advantages of using chemical control over the long term, as well as offering hands-on advice on what equipment to use and the precautions that should be followed when using herbicides. Thank you.